Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock on Monday, November 4th, 2022. I'm calling the regular meeting of the Resources and Infrastructure Committee meeting to order. We have 4 out of the 5 committee members present, so we have a quorum. Mr. Meeks is not present as of yet. I don't think, right? That's him. Okay, chair report. I don't have much of a chair report. I just want to remind everybody that our next meeting is December 9th. And at that time, we'll also be discussing who wants to continue on R&I. And the board will be in December, putting in the notice to accept applications. So think about whether you're still coming. And is everybody available for December 9th?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, just making sure. Okay, ad hoc subcommittee reports. I don't think we have any active ad hoc committees at the moment. Okay, committee member communications. Does anybody have any thing they wish to say about things that they've been doing related to resources or infrastructure? Or Mr. Webb, do you have anything on your marine sanctuary item?
Well, I can update you on a couple of things. One is when the marine protected areas along the coast were developed, people wanted to make sure there was a way to modify or adjust marine protected areas based on what we discovered in the subsequent years. And so they came up with a decadal management review process where every 10 years they go through and they look at everything and have meetings and talk about things that work and things that don't work. And one of the things they've talked about that we're having trouble with is the sea urchins along our coast are eating all the kelp. And as they destroy the kelp, all different aspects of the ecosystem fail because they're missing that link. And so they're looking at all one way to look at it is this is actually a reflection of the 2014-2015 blob of warm water that developed up in the Pacific Northwest. And there was a huge bloom of urchins, and their larvae or whatever they produce have been coming down the coast ever since and have just wiped out miles and miles of kelp forests. Long-standing kelp forests, like in Monterey, for example, reduced it to a barrens, just to bare rock with starving urchins crawling around looking for some more kelp. So they're discussing ways they might go about trying to lessen the impact from this. In particular is the purple urchin, not the red urchin, which is the commercial uni one that you eat at sushi bar, but well, you don't eat it.
You eat at a sushi bar.
I guess I eat at a sushi bar. Anyway, so there's not much commercial value to them, but there's a lot of value to getting their numbers reduced. In the past, some of the starfish community used to help control their numbers, but there was a huge die-off of starfish that occurred also after that warm water period. So we're kind of between a rock and a hard place now. We have areas protected. We don't want people going in them. But on the other hand, the urchins said, okay, fine, we'll go then. And they've destroyed a lot of kelp forests. So they're trying to come up with ways of addressing that. None of which are very spectacular at this point. Most of which come down to a hammer and a scuba diver. So leave it at that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, and we back up a minute. I neglected to say who is here staff-wise. So in person, we have General Manager Matthew McElhaney. We have our confidential administrative assistant, Mrs. Dodson. We have our utilities manager, Jim Green, our program manager, Tristan Reaper, and our water department supervisor, Cody Meeks. And we have 4 people on Zoom, one of whom is a director. Okay, do we have any panelists on Zoom?
No, just us.
Just us. Okay, good. Thank you. So moving forward, Mr. Green. And I love this watermark in the header. It's such a professional looking report.
Thank you. Yeah, well,
Beautiful.
spent a lot of time writing this and collaborating and putting that together. So we like to make it look aesthetically pleasing as well, but thank you, Jardine. I'll start off with some of the big topics here, kind of giving our project updates to everybody here. Let's talk ZLD. The ZLD experienced some supply chain shortages in the production of its trailer or the vessel that was going to be the treatment vessel. So it's been put together. It has to be inspected by NAWI, who is the funding piece of that grant funding for this. And it just didn't make it in time for us. So we're kind of out of our preventive maintenance operational period for this run, not only through our permit, but also seasonality wise here. That wouldn't have been able to put in pilot operation until December, which I think we already got a little bit of rain, and changing that water quality, which would be the source water quality for the WRF from 9P7. We wanted to put the pilot through its toughest, most rigorous paces. So we don't want watered down supply water affecting what would be the final outcome for the development of this ZLD project. So just today, Global Water Innovations provided me and Regional Water some analysis of permeate, which was the last piece that we needed. It's kind of a two-legged stool here. We needed that to go forward with our pilot project. Both county and Regional Water was interested in those analysis of that. And then secondly, we have a wastewater permit that we're redoing for the first time in many, many years. And a little caveat or provision for ZLD was put into that permit here. So we can now finalize that permit because we have some of those analytic numbers in there. So we look forward to completing and getting that wastewater permit up and going. While we're on that wastewater permit topic, the MCLs or some of the thresholds for compliance really haven't changed that much. We will have obviously that new plant, some modified operations of that new plant that should be most beneficial. But we have 2 years under this new basically permit to either meet those criteria thresholds or develop ways to meet those criteria or thresholds. We don't see any problem or issues right now with what we have out there, but if some of those MCLs, those are maximum contaminant limits, are hard to achieve, then we've had a couple of years to adjust our processing and treatment to get that right.
So Jim, what's the time on the testing? It won't be this winter,
It won't be. We'll schedule it for next October.
next October. Okay.
That's about the best month for that raw source water and then operation.
Got it,
first. And that's
okay.
typically the time where we did our preventative maintenance runs in the past.
Got it.
So yeah, so we'll look for that next September or October. Water meter replacement, our AMI. I think we're in the triple digits now. We still have a very thin staff installing these manually. We put together an RFP, a request for proposal, that was approved by legal counsel last week. We will be flying that later this week. We've also come across another meter installer who showed interest in our project. So we should see that project starting to really get traction here in the next 2 to 4 weeks. So it's fantastic. And while I'm on the AMI topic right there, Ion Water is the Badger portal, which will be the customer portal. It's also our commercial end of the portal. So we get a view, consumption and some of that. It's really what we initiated this AMI for, so we could get that data. We've had a second alert pop up. We had another 4.8 gallon per minute loss on the customer side of someone who is not at home on a second residence. So we're able to shut that off, isolate customer side water loss. So again, this is all about reducing water consumption, unaccounted for water loss, and then water in homes, and then especially on our side as well. So that's coming along. So we'll really start to get traction again on that AMI install here in a month. Our SS3 well pump update. We all know that the motor and pump have been installed. We just recently had a VFD installed. Again, supply chain shortages, especially with like electrical cabinets or variable frequency drives. This was due to us here coming up in a couple of weeks, but the federal government kind of stepped in and took priority. So the one that we're set to receive was taken by the federal government for use. I'm not sure where, but one turned up here about a week ago and that was installed. We're waiting integration with our SCADA and our automation contractor, which will be in the next week or so. So we'll have SS3. So right now the creek is not running. So we're able to operate from SS1, 2, and 3 right now. It's the dry season is officially over. We're into the wet season. So no more processing except for an emergency from the Santa Rosas. From SR4, we are allowed 155.3 acre feet during that dry season. We used just 9 short of that full yield. And I like to say with that 147 or 148 acre feet that we diverted from there, the creek is still running. So I think smart groundwater management and use of San Simeon and then Santa Rosa's intermittently kind of helped that there and reduce the impact to those waterways as well. Our San Simeon Wellfield Transmission Main Project, that's the wastewater and domestic water lines that come through state parks. Right now, obviously we've reported on this, that the preserve or the natural preserve, enhanced preserve area, that state parks doesn't want any construction going in that. We're relegated to the shoulder in Caltrans encroachment area. So right now we're working with Caltrans engineers. Unfortunately, we're still trying to get that encroachment or right of entry into Caltrans and easement area to do some coring and some potholing for other utilities and get some soil samples there. So we're still working with that. That's coming. As soon as we get defined locations for underground infrastructure and we know some of the geological characteristics of that soil in there, we can do that final, what we have basically 90% as-built for that. And we can begin on that. Unfortunately, we're not able to work in that till next June. Kristen, is that right? If we're out of that setback, actually, if we're out of state parks.
So if we're not in the, we're in the Caltrans easement. I don't remember exactly what the requirements were for that, but that will be something that we'll talk about with our consultant.
Again, that's kind of a fair weather friend there. So I don't see us breaking ground much before April. You know, our rainy season ends up with a pretty heavy March. So probably look forward to breaking ground then in April. And that'll be something where we go to RFP for construction for on that as well. I think that's about all the updates I have to provide. Just anything from the program manager's desk? We'll save future agenda items for the.
Okay.
We'll save that, but if there's anything else that you wanted to bring up, here's your opportunity.
Not that I can think of unless.
Does anybody have any questions for our utilities manager or program manager?
R&I, but non-utilities related. We did complete the final application submittals of documents for our OGALS loan for the skate park or for our funding from OGAL skate park. So we look forward to seeing that funding actually hit us in the next 3 months, 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, so we'll be cleared for funding. Now, this is a reimbursement grant. So if anybody remembers when we first put this grant together, we had to come forward to the board and encumber general fund reserves to match the amount that the community council and Skate Cambria had raised. So we could demonstrate that we could pay for the entire project, if we had to, if something happened. So with that, when we say funding, it'll be reimbursement funding. So when we do break ground, it'll be incremental submittals to the state for reimbursement for the monies that we spend. Then that'll kind of go back into.
As we spend it, we'll submit those invoices and then get reimbursed.
Is that quarterly reimbursement? Is it as we get them? How does the reimbursement work?
From my experience, I think it's as it hits.
As it
we can
hits.
submit those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Do they have a certain timeline in which we have to start the project or in the
Great
project?
question. So recently, we've been having more conversations about those deadlines. And so I spoke with them on Friday. It is a typical 3-year window to complete the project. However, you can ask for an extension for an additional 2 years for a total of 5.
Okay, so, but is there a dead timeline for us to begin?
No, just to complete. Now, we do have to show incremental progress, like we're doing things. I don't know exactly what that is. This was kind of an off the cuff conversation with our grant manager. But she'll walk us through that, but we do have time before we actually have to break ground.
But we just have to show we're doing something up to the.
Yeah, I mean, I know that sounds pretty loosey goosey, but,
Okay.
she'll walk us through it, but, we do have to show that we're working on different things and, but in order, we just have to have it completed within 3 with the option extend to 5.
Okay,
Examples would be like removing the existing surface.
Right.
And things like that. Those are all
Concrete removal.
measurements in progress. Yeah.
okay, good. Okay, again, any questions? No, okay. Do we have any questions on the utility report on? I don't see any hands up. Okay, let's move on to public comment on items not on the agenda. So this is the time when members of the public may now address the committee on any item of interest that is within the jurisdiction of the committee, but not on the agenda today. Future agenda items can be suggested at this time. And in compliance with the Brown Act, the committee cannot discuss or act on items not on the agenda. Does anybody online have anything they wish to say? Seeing no hands? No, okay, we did receive one written comment from Linda Prentice, however, is on an item that is not under the jurisdiction of this committee. So I will not be reading it. It is really, it was sent to 3 of the 4 standing committees and is really something under the jurisdiction of the board. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Okay. So this is approving the minutes. Does anybody have anything they wish to point out needs to be corrected or adjusted, Mr. Dujic?
On page 3A, section 3A, page 11. Section 4, item 4. The second bullet from the top says standing committee members shall not interfere with staff duties, etc. Standing committee members should, and it's missing an N, should not request actions from staff.
So how many bullets down?
Second bullet.
Second down. Yeah, okay.
I was trying to get away with something, all right? Yeah, telling the staff what to do. All right.
Anything else? No? Okay, if there are no other corrections, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes as written, but with that one correction.
Also moved.
Okay. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, and do a roll call. Mr. Dujic,
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Seaver.
Aye.
Okay. We have 4 ayes and 1 absent. And the absent is Mr. Meeks. Okay. So next on the agenda is to receive a presentation from Astera Recovery on satellite-based leak detection services for water and wastewater. Discuss and consider forwarding a recommendation to the board of directors to include Astera's leak, detection services in the 25-26 fiscal year budget. I think is that you or Mr. Meeks?
You want to set it up, Cody? You want to tee it off?
I could start out.
Sure, yeah.
Recently, Jim and I attended a conference, and this was one thing that really struck out to us as something futuristic and forward-going, with water leak detection. Astera uses essentially satellites to map the town and use their technology to figure out where chlorinated water is coming out of. So we have a presentation that goes over how they do it, and included is pricing for Cambria and other success stories.
And Mr. Matthias is online.
Right. So we all know unaccounted for water loss is a huge piece everywhere, whether in San Bernardino or even our little loss here. We always look for ways to tighten it up. We've done for years, a certain style, that's been beneficial to us. We've had them out the last couple of years and haven't really found anything new. Astera's got some ways that can detect leaks or show where leaks are that are not surfaced and are really difficult to notice or see. And like Cody said, we're really amazed and impressed with their presentation at the convention we went to. So we thought we'd bring this to you guys and let you receive the presentation and then kind of maybe vote on it or see if we should take action with this in the upcoming year. So with that, I'll hand it off to our Astera rep.
Good afternoon, guys. Can you guys hear me okay there?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Because the last 5 minutes I have been battling with this headphone to try to get the audio in my ears, so I'm glad it worked right on time. But yeah, thank you guys for the intro. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen here. Let me know when you can see, and then I will pull up this presentation for us. So give me,
Is that big enough for everybody? Can you guys? Yeah, we can see it.
all right. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I know we don't have the full hour that we normally have, so I'll kind of fly through this. What I would welcome you guys to do is if you have questions, write them down. I'd be happy to answer them at the end, but I think a lot of them will get answered as the presentation goes through. So I'll just go for it right here. Thank you guys so much for having me. Again, my name is Matthias. I am the sales development representative on the West Coast here. So I cover California along with 16 other different states, a few territories in Canada as well. To kind of mirror what was being said about Astera already, we are a satellite-based leak detection solution. We are an Earth observation company, but our cash cow, our bread and butter is leak detection on the water and wastewater side. So that is the service that we are most known for. Essentially, what we do, we take a satellite image of the system, highlight the areas where we see treated water leaking already, and we make the leak detection process more efficient. We find more leaks and we find them faster than the traditional methods. Okay, so that's a short overview. I'll go ahead and break into the full presentation here for you guys. So Astera, we started in 2013. Our CTO and co-founder, Loren Guy, he actually worked on the project to find water on Mars. He was granted funding through NASA, and when he was successful, his idea was, well, what if we turn this radar around and use it on Earth? Could we do something with it there? After 3 years of research and development, we went to the market with our satellite leak detection service, and we've hit the ground running since. One of our biggest accolades that we're very proud of here is the innovation award that we won from the AWWA. This was the very first year they came out with the innovation award. So we're very proud recipients, and we're very proud to be the very first to win this award, helping bring innovation to the industry. Okay, to give you an idea of the impact we've had since we hit the market in 2016, we have worked in over 64 different countries with over 700 customers. And I'm not going to read through all of this stuff here for you guys, but I'll highlight a couple of big points. On the left side, the 100,000 leaks verified. We are the very first company that can say that we verified 100,000 leaks. And then to kind of paint a picture for you guys here, again, this is as of March of this year. So we have saved over 368 billion gallons of water. So since March, it's been significantly more, but to give you, to paint a picture for you, I guess, that's roughly the same amount of water that flows over Niagara Falls in 1 week. So a ton of water there. To dive into the technology of it, what we do, I want to highlight the top right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see the satellite orbiting the Earth. That is happening as we speak. And these commercial satellites that we use, when we move forward with a company, we program the satellite to take a snapshot image. I'll make it a little interactive here for everyone, but if you see the view screen, or the view slide right here on the left-hand side, can anybody recognize that area? Anyone know the geography of what this image is right here on the left?
That's San Francisco.
Correct, correct. I like to ask the California utilities. Typically, they know. When I ask someone in Idaho, they're like, "Oh, I don't know, Mediterranean," or they give us all random things. But yeah, it's San Francisco, and what you could see from the image we take is that we can capture a lot in one image. Our images can go up to 1,400 square miles, and we can capture multiple utilities within a single snapshot. Along with the size of these images, what I want to guide your attention to is the middle now, which is the sensor. The sensor we use is called L-band synthetic aperture radar. All right. We use this radar for two reasons. One of which is it's very sensitive to water. And the second is that it can penetrate through the Earth's surface. Okay. The average penetration depth we see is up to 10 feet. And it's not just soil that it can penetrate through. It can penetrate through concrete. It can penetrate through asphalt. It can penetrate through cloud cover, forests, and much more. But it does have limitations. Okay. Some of the limitations are water. So we're not gonna highlight and give you a heat map of all the swimming pools in your area. Okay. What we see is the water coming into contact with the soil. So if a treated swimming pool is leaking and it's saturating the soil next to it, we'll see that, but we're not gonna highlight all the swimming pools. But the other thing that it can't penetrate through is metal. Okay. That limitation comes into play if we were to take a snapshot of your system and there's a big semi truck that is parked directly on top of the leak the exact second we take the image, that would be one of the leaks that we would miss. Okay. If it's saturating the soil and it's going around any part of the truck, then that is something that's going to highlight for us. But there are limitations and there are leaks that we do miss when we take these images. Okay, I'll get into that a little bit more here, but I kind of want to give you an idea of how we do what we do. First step of the process is defining the boundaries of your system. Okay, once we define the boundaries of your system and we were to move forward, we take the satellite image of your system as you see here. Okay, and remind me, you guys use GIS for your mapping, correct?
Correct, yes.
Perfect, perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that GIS, we're going to overlay it on top of the image. This is going to make us more accurate and make sure that everything that we provide to you pertains to your water system. Okay, so we overlay the GIS and we're going to start providing points of interest that will look like this to you guys on our platform EO Discover. And I'll get into exactly how that platform is going to look, what it's going to contain, and all of that. But essentially, we're giving you this heat map of where we see treated water leaking. Okay. To kind of paint another picture for you here, this might be a little easier to follow when you're looking at this. But what we do is with one snapshot, you would get something that would look like this. Okay. Each of these points, we call them points of interest, and or another way to think of it is a likely leak location. Okay. What we're determining here is where the water cools and comes into contact with the soil. Okay. When the soil is saturated enough, that's going to ding based off our algorithm when we do the analysis on the image. And it's going to ding. And what we are looking at specifically is going to be the conductivity signature that comes from treated water saturating the soil. Okay. So when we highlight these areas, we're not highlighting groundwater. Okay. We're not highlighting any rainwater. We won't highlight wastewater. What we see when we run the analysis one time through with our treated water solution is strictly treated water that is saturating the soil. And what we mean by saturating is it has to be saturating the soil for at least 48 hours. Okay? The smallest leak we can detect is 0.2 gallons per minute. So if a leak is 0.2 gallons per minute saturating the soil for at least 48 hours, it will pop up for us. What's another added benefit of that? We need a certain level of saturation. So what is that going to rule out? It's going to rule out any type of temporary event. Okay? Something like irrigation. Maybe one of you guys are watering your front lawn. If it hasn't been saturating the soil, I'm saying leaking here, but saturating the soil for at least 48 hours, it won't change the conductivity range enough to pop up on our scan. So any type of irrigation, it's going to rule out. Any type of groundwater, because of the conductivity range, is not going to pop up for us. What's going to pop up is strictly treated water saturating the soil. Okay. So with one scan, we're going to get something like this. Okay. When we see this, we're seeing about 30% of the active leaks in the system with one scan. Okay. Best way to think about it is actually in the room you guys are sitting in right now. You have a conference room with multiple doors. And if you walk in through one door, you might be able to see the TV screen that I'm probably projected on. You might be able to see it very clearly from the door that's directly across the room. Okay. If you walk in through another door, maybe it's one that's on the same exact wall that the TV screen's on, it might be really hard to see. So with a second scan, we'll get different points as such. Okay. What you might see near the middle, toward the bottom, is 2 points that overlap. That does happen. There are many occasions where we get the same points popping up on different scans. Okay. The reason we don't see all the same points on all the same scans is because when we take these images, they're at an angle. Again, like the room we just discussed. So one angle might be from the door on the room behind you guys there. The other one might be from the door across the room. Okay. So with the more images we take, the more we know about your system. The two packages you're seeing here, detect is one analysis per year. Prevent would be 2 analyses per year. And then advise would be 4 analyses, essentially a quarterly analysis. All right. And when we're diving into these points of interest, okay, each of these points of interest is going to have a radius of about 300 feet. So that's anywhere between 1.5 to 2 blocks. Okay. The reason we provide a point of interest this large is because what we see from the satellite 400 miles above the Earth is the conductivity range of treated water saturating the soil. So we are seeing exactly where is the water pooling. Where is the water ending up? That doesn't necessarily mean that the leak is right there. What we know about leaks is that if they're constant, they can very easily travel through the soil. So maybe you see where the big 800 number is, in yellow letters. Maybe that's where the conductivity range and the print of the treated water is popping up for us. That leak could very well could start all the way at the bottom of that point of interest. Okay, so when we highlight these points of interest, we don't just say, hey, go in there, look for a leak. The second you find a leak, stop. No, we ask utilities to send the team through the entire point of interest. Reason being is because there are multiple cases where we find more than one leak per point of interest that we provide. And I have a case study actually in California that attests to that I'll go over in a little bit. Okay. Another thing to note, we take all the information from your GIS. What you see on there is the type of pipe we're looking at, the size and diameter, and then we'll give you an address for each point of interest to make sure we're tracking the project as it goes along. Okay, so what is the value of what we're going to bring to you guys? Again, we are an efficiency tool. What you see on the right-hand side of your screen would be the system size, a system of 310 miles. And without Astera, they would need a larger crew and a lot more time to send a team out and hit every single asset and inspect every single point. Okay. What we do when we take the analysis and provide you the points of interest is we narrow that system down to about 5 to 10% of the system. Okay. What does that allow for you guys to do? It allows a smaller crew that would be needed to do a lot less work. Okay. With that, we enable you guys to scan your entire system multiple times per year at a fraction of the cost. All right. So, sorry, was there a question there?
Oh, no, we had a straggler come in, so. We're
Oh,
fine.
okay.
Please continue, guys. I'm sorry. Sorry for the interruption.
No, no worries at all. If you guys have questions, please feel free. We'll have a little time at the end too. But what I pulled up here, this is going to be the platform. It's called EO Discover. It stands for Earth Observation Discover, and this is where you're going to track the entire project. Okay. Some of the things you're going to see right under the overall performance tab is going to be the total number of leaks found. And then what you see right after that with the blue little circle is going to be the non-surfacing leaks. Why is that important? Well, that's essentially a big portion of the bread and butter that we're bringing to you guys. We're helping you find these leaks before they turn large enough to break to the surface. Okay. So we're hoping that we're going to find a lot more non-surfacing leaks because what is the traditional method of leak detection? The majority of utilities, what do? They have a reactive approach. They have a customer call in, hey, there's a leak on Main Street. It's right here by my house. Can you send someone out to repair it? You contract the team, send them out. What we're hoping to do is help you find these leaks before they turn into main breaks. Okay, find them small, take care of them when they're small. That way we're saving on water loss in that manner. Okay. If I guide your attention to the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see a little blue tab that says 22.7%. Right under that, you're going to see a place where you can download the shape files and the data sheets. Okay. So if you guys are data gurus and you have a system in play where you guys want all that information, it's all available to you right here, very easily integratable. All right. When we move on to the next page, you're also going to have a portion of the platform that's going to have a map view for you guys. And I have a question here. Can you guys see my cursor that I'm moving around? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'll guide your attention right here. You're going to see a little bit of a yellow highlight with a green point on it. Okay. So this would be an example of a point of interest that we send you guys out to look and inspect, and you were able to pinpoint the leak in that area. Okay. Job well done. Right next to it, you'll see a highlighted area with a yellow point of interest. Okay. That could be a suspected leak. Okay. That could be a leak that we might not have heard. Okay. There's many reasons why we might not find a point of interest upon the first inspection. Okay. Some of those might be, okay, you send a team out to inspect it and it's in the middle of prime time traffic. You have a lot of noise pollution in the area and you can't audibly detect exactly where the leak is. Okay. So maybe you send out that team, I don't know, 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, ton of traffic. Okay, next time we inspect it, it might be maybe you do, I don't know, lunchtime. Maybe you're able to do it a little bit later in the day when you're not expecting that much of a traffic flow. Another reason you might not find it on PVC pipe, a lot harder to audibly detect leaks. That could be another one. Again, what is the smallest leak that we can see? 0.2 gallons per minute. All right. On a PVC pipe, that might be very hard to audibly detect. So what we would do with this platform is track that, make a note of it. Hey, we didn't find one here. When we do the second scan, we're going to make that a priority to inspect that point of interest that we had before. And it happens so many times. We provide the point of interest, and upon the first inspection, they don't find it. They come back to it at a later point, and then voila, there's a leak in that area. Okay. So from there, I'll skip over this because we've kind of talked a lot about this bit already, and we'll get into it a little bit more as we go. But this is a portion of the platform that we brought out based off interactions with our previous customers, current customers. They wanted a way to track their return on investment when it comes to this project. And this is exactly what we brought here. And it's not just an estimate. What we hope to do is input your system's water cost, your power cost, your greenhouse gas emissions. That way, when we start moving forward and getting into the actual service of sending a team out to inspect these points of interest, okay, when we find a leak, we get the estimate how many gallons of water was being lost per minute. We input that in here, and then once we repair it, we start tracking that based off how much water have you saved throughout. And it's going to be specific to your system, and it's a really great way to see at the end of the year, okay, we invested $5 into this. How many dollars did we save back? Okay. Very popular among our customers, and it is a lot of the feedback. We love when our customers talk to us, tell us what would be helpful to them. And with all that, we start becoming that much more efficient, that much more accurate. All right. All this being said, I'm going to hop into a couple of case studies here for you guys. And these are both going to pertain to two specific aspects of what we do and how we're more efficient. The first one is going to compare the traditional proactive approach, which is essentially what we mentioned before, hiring a team of technicians to aimlessly go out and walk every portion of the system, okay, and hit the assets. What do we know about that? You need a big team for it, one, and two is going to take a very long time. All right. So we're going to compare this project that we had in New Braunfels in Texas. We're going to compare their proactive approach. They were lucky enough to have a team that proactively scanned their system all year. And we're going to compare that to their approach with our satellite-based guided method. Okay. So New Braunfels, excuse me. I'm going to have a little drink of water here. Excuse me, guys. So New Braunfels, medium to large system. And they were at 573 total linear miles of pipe, and they were obviously at a very high water loss percentage. Their non-revenue water is right here at 18%. Okay. They were lucky enough to have a system in play where they had a proactive leak detection team. They had 3 full-time technicians that walked and listened to the system all year round. And what they saw is they got through about 20% of their system per year. Okay. So to do a full system scan for them, it took about 5 years. So that's 3 full-time technicians that only do this all year round. In 5 years, they were able to get through the entire system one time. All right. We tracked their results from those 5 years, and what we found is in those 5 years, they were able to find 178 leaks. Okay. So keep that number in mind. 5 years, 178 leaks. The next page I'm going to show you is the direct side-by-side comparison of the very last year they did this approach and the very first year that they went into this with Astera's satellite-guided method. And what you see here is just night and day results, especially on this second line here when we're looking at the total number of leaks found. In 2018, those 3 technicians went out into the field and they found 16 total leaks. Okay, the very next year with our satellite guided method, and again, I think I skipped over this, they used 2 scans. Okay, so with 2 scans, it's the same crew that went out into the field. All right, they found 229 leaks. Okay, night and day. But it gets even more efficient when you look at the very next line. How many days were they out in the field? In 2018, in 249 days of scanning the system, they found 16 leaks. In 2019, they were out there for 56 days and they found 229. Okay. So again, that is the value that we bring. We find more leaks and we find them quicker. In terms of what they spent, they, on average in 2018, per leak that they found, they spent about $14,000. And with us, they spend a little under 700. Of course, it's a case study. It's a one-off project. For sure, the cost per leak found is very in our favor. Okay. What I'm going to do at the end of this presentation, I'm going to bring up a benchmarking report so you guys can see a much larger sample size and get a much better idea. Okay. But this great success story, New Braunfels very happy with the results and they've been renewing with us. Okay. So they're very happy with the service. And essentially what happens with systems is sometimes, hey, very high water loss. Maybe we start with 4 scans this year. They go out, they tackle it, get that water loss down. And then from there on, they'll use us maybe 2 scans a year, maybe 1 scan a year. Okay, use it as a maintenance project. Okay, now here's our California project. This is our most recent case study, and this is over in San Bernardino. Their system was fairly similar in size, a little bit bigger than New Braunfels. And what they did, they also went ahead with our prevent package, 2 scans in a year. And sorry, I'm moving the little icon here because it's blocking some of the stuff for me. But what you see on that second line there is the amount of crew days that they spent out in the field. And they investigated 153 points of interest. I think what we provided their system was somewhere around between 200 and 250. So they didn't even get through the entire list of point of interest that we had. All right. They investigated about 44 miles. That's a little bit like that's about 6% of their total system, 700 miles, 44 miles there. It's about 7%. And what they found out of these 153 points of interest was a grand total of 324 leaks. Okay. So again, what does that attest to is in these points of interest, we don't just find one leak. There's a lot of instances where we're finding multiple leaks in these areas. Okay. So again, we narrow your system down to the areas where we see the treated water leaking and we expedite the leak detection process. What we see in this graph here, leaks per mile walked in this project in specific, they found 7.3 leaks per mile. And the traditional boots on the ground, what they're finding is about 0.3 leaks per mile walked. And when we're looking at leaks per day, it's way above our North American benchmark, but they're finding about 5 leaks per day. What we're finding on average here in North America is about 3.7. But again, that's well above the 1.3 that's found with the traditional manner. Okay. To break down the leak types they found, because I think this is very important for you guys to know, is that they're going to find leaks everywhere. Again, we can't determine from a satellite 400 miles above the earth if they're on your mains or if they're on your services or if they're off a hydrant. Okay. All of this, we see treated water saturating the soil. We highlight it, guide you to that area, and then we pinpoint it from there. All right. You are going to see near the bottom that we will find it on the customer side too. Okay. We know that it's not the most beneficial for you guys, but what utilities have used it for in the past is reaching out to their customers and telling them, hey, we are doing a proactive leak detection approach to save water here in the community. When we did this satellite-based method, we went out into the field, we found a leak on your side of the meter. Okay. You let them know, build that relationship up. And we've also had the utilities who have a massive system and they're like, nope, not to do with us. We got to get moving, inspect more of these, get the water loss down. It depends. It's completely up to you guys when you do find them on the customer side, but you will find them on both sides. Okay. So I do want to make sure you guys know that. Ultimately, this project has been a really great success. Tim Potter's gone on a couple of webinars with us, attested to it, kind of given that voice of customer of how he enjoyed working with us, what the experiences was like, so on and so forth. But the grand result is going to be here at the bottom right. All right. Their real water loss was reduced from about 50 gallons per connection per day down to about 18 gallons per connection per day. All right. So we're in the process of renewing them for another service and hoping to grow off that and help our California utilities lower your water loss. Okay. That was our Recover product. Okay. We have that for both water and wastewater. Before I get into master plan here, I'm actually going to pull up these slides for you guys on wastewater. We don't yet have a case study on the wastewater side, but it is essentially the same type of analysis that we run with water. Okay. To give you guys an idea, we have very few projects with this, but Garland, Texas, they essentially started with us on the water side of things. All right. For treated water, we were able to reduce their non-revenue water loss down by 10%. very happy with the results. They decided, hey, let's kick this off with wastewater, see how it goes. Again, we're only allowed to share what they have allowed us to share so far, but we are hoping that in the next month or two, we're going to have a case study on the wastewater side of things as well. The second we do, we will reach out to you guys. We'll have a webinar for sure, and you guys can join in and see the total results. But after the initial field inspection, what they found was 3 pipe fractures that were so extreme that the CCTV camera couldn't even pass through. Okay. After talking with the customer success manager, they are very happy with the results on the wastewater side of things. So us on our end, we're very excited for that case study to be published so we can present it as well. So we'll keep you guys in the loop on that. So those two are our solutions for recover water and wastewater. All right. We also have our master plan, which is a pipe deficiency assessment. All right. This was brought about for a couple of reasons. We know when you guys are doing your master plan at the end of the year and trying to plan, hey, where are we going to replace our pipe? We know you go through a lot to try to narrow that down. Okay. You might go off the material of the pipe, the age of the pipe. Maybe there's a certain spot in, I don't know if you guys have an old town, but if you have an old town and you've seen a lot of leaks in that area, you might go off that, off history of leaks, all those things. But again, trying to figure out where you're replacing from where you're going to replace the pipe is almost shooting from the hip, and it's a very tough job. On top of that, what we know, I think this slide is very skewed. If we go to this line here, it says budgets are limited, less than 5% of pipes replaced annually. I have never met with a utility that has been able to replace 5% of their pipes in a year. It's no chance. I think everyone's generally 1%, if not lower. I assume you guys are right around there. Yeah,
Sure.
maybe
Yeah.
less.
Service lines is a different story, but we don't really have main issues, but this
Okay.
is kind of why we're want to engage in this to see if we truly do.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. But yeah, we know that when it comes to these things, budget's very limited, and it's not an easy task figuring out where you are gonna what area you're gonna tackle first, okay? So essentially what we do, and this isn't going to be a likelihood of failure. It's not going to be a consequence of failure. What we're going to provide to you guys is real failure, and it's going to be based off multiple scans. You're going to get something like what you see here on the right-hand side. Okay. What we do is we take multiple images, we take them side by side, and we highlight the areas where we had points of interest overlap on the same images. Okay, so it's a spatial and temporal analysis. And what we do is we highlight those areas that overlap over 2. We're going to highlight them red. Okay, those are going to be the areas we would suggest having a look at. Okay, this isn't going to be the end all be all. We're not going to provide you guys this and say, hey, whatever is red needs to be replaced yesterday. Okay, that's not what we're doing. This is going to be an added data layer for you guys to make your decision. Okay, we know the information you have is already limited. So what we provide with this is essentially an assessment of where we see water leaking, where is it constant, and the orange ones might be a cluster that don't necessarily overlap. Um, but they're around the same area. And then low priority would go to those that are outliers, maybe one off on a couple of scans. Okay. So that's going to be the master plan product. Ultimately, what I want to leave you guys with here is going to be the benchmarking report. Okay. And this is going to highlight 880 satellite guided projects, comparing them to over 2,000 traditional unassisted boots on the ground projects. What we see is very similar to what we saw with New Braunfels. Okay. In less than half of the projects, we're finding almost 4 times the amount of leaks, a little bit over the 4 times the amount of leaks. But again, what is the bread and butter of what we do is we are finding them faster. Okay. Crews are out there for a lot less time, and they are finding a lot more leaks. Ultimately, the cost per leak found is not going to be as high excuse me, is not going to be as high as what you saw in New Braunfels. 16 leaks for a full-time crew of 3 um, is going to cost a lot, but we are still going to be significantly cheaper. We're almost half as cheap as the traditional method per leak found. All right. So, yeah, we can go over this little bit here. I just don't want to eat up all your time. What we're going to do is enhance your network visibility. Best way to think about it is we're the eyes up in space, giving you insight to what's going on below the surface. Okay, we're giving you these extra added data layers to make your decisions. Okay, how are you going to approach your leak detection this year? Well, we can narrow the system down to about half, send a crew out, and proactively attack this. How are we going to replace our pipes? Well, we can add this data layer into the information we already know, and make sure that the pipes we're replacing, it's more warranted in those areas. We're improving operational efficiency, again, finding more leaks, finding them faster, and ultimately getting you your return on investment. What we see with the majority of our clients that do at least 2 images is there's a return of investment period. They get a payback period of about 12 months, okay, if not lower. Finally, here's the service packages we have, and I think I did provide that over to Cody, the proposal with the pricing. We did used to do detect, so it was 1 scan for in 1 year. We no longer do that because the jump of getting 2 scans and the success of the project is night and day. So detect we do offer, but a minimum of a 2-year package. So it would be having 2 scans split up in 2 years. But our most popular by far is our prevent package. That's 2 analyses in 1 year. And finally, advise. This is kind of the gold one. So if we look at them left to right, bronze, silver, gold, advise is going to be a quarterly analysis. All right. This also has the master plan pipe deficiency map included with it. And you'll get a few more login licenses, so on and so forth. If any of those things are more attractive to you guys, that's definitely something we can talk about and add into the package. But this is essentially what we offer. All right. And with that, I just like to thank you guys all for taking the time. I really hope I didn't push the agenda and take too long here. I know it's a long presentation, but I want to make sure I'm thorough with it. That way you guys understand what it is exactly we're bringing to the table.
Do you want him to take questions?
Does anybody have any questions? Mateus, could you state if anybody has any questions?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Okay, does anybody on the committee have a question? No?
I don't think so. I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Duchek?
Are there any other costs that we need to budget for in this process? And given that we have a relatively small staff, are there any adjustments that would need to be made or that could be made to give us a better deal, if you will, given that we're not going to have a dozen people looking on at their computers and following this around?
Yeah, definitely. So some of the costs you want to take into account, and correct me if I'm wrong. Forgive me here because I'm trying to pull it up on my computer, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this too. I think computers smell a little bit of fear when you're in a hurry. So it's not loading for me here, but I'm trying to pull up this this presentation or the proposal I have for you guys. In that proposal, I do believe that I included the boots on the ground, subcontracted boots on the ground. So that's the team that's going to go out and pinpoint the leak detection. That is going to be something that we want to make sure that we either conduct the full boots on the ground with our subcontracted team, or at least a little portion of it. We have seen in the past, and these are some of the projects that we haven't had the most success on, is utilities go in to this project and they buy the data and they don't allocate the budget to send a team out and inspect the points of interest. So if that's not something that is going to be available to you guys, it's not a project that we're going to move forward with because it's not going to be successful. It's gonna not be productive. So we want to make sure we have the boots on the ground to go out. That is going to be one of the added costs for it. In terms of the licenses, if you guys wanted to go in on the advised package that has 6 and you don't need all the licenses, then that could be something we sit down, discuss, and we can give a little bit of discount and take some of those out. Little things like that we could work with, but again, that would be something that would have to be a discussion and sitting down and making sure, hey, what is it exactly you guys need? What is it you don't need? And then go from there. But when it comes to these packages, especially what you're seeing here, because your system is on the smaller end, there's not a ton of wiggle room on giving discounts. Okay. I think for the most part, definitely on the 3 year, it's absolutely the lowest price that we can go with this. Um, we could maybe shave some days of the acoustic leak detection if we needed to, and then maybe you can budget for it for a future year. But yeah, for a system of your size, we almost have you like it's like hundreds of dollars that we could probably discount. So it's not a whole lot of wiggle room that we have on this. Does that answer your question there? I know I kind of went on
Yes.
a rant
Thank
there.
you.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Okay,
Yes.
On these scans, you talk about you do, one scan? Or do you give us information after several scans, it's just one time?
Yeah, no, great question there. So we do one scan. What we do is we program the satellite, take the image of your system, but what we make sure before we even buy the image, so the company we buy it from, they send out maybe like a week before and let us know what the resiliency of that image is going to be. So if it's not at a high enough level for us to actually run our analysis on it, we don't buy it. Okay. So we do take one scan. If you guys go with Prevent, which is 2 analysis per year, what we would probably recommend is maybe depending on your availability, but typically once in the spring and once in the fall. If you guys want to do a quarterly analysis, then we might, for us, we're in California, so we have a lot more wiggle room when it comes to weather. But a utility like we work with Colorado as well, absolutely we do spring and fall. We don't do winter, obviously, because of the snowfall. Summer, if they need, we can go like that. But yeah, we take one analysis, send you the information after we make sure it's a successful, clear image. And then we take another one in and give it to you depending on when you guys have the time to tackle that.
Okay, thank you.
anybody else? Anybody online have a question? I don't see anything. How do you tell the difference between our treated water and the swimming pool water? Or any
Yeah,
other water that's
brilliant question. Well, if we're talking about specifically swimming pool water, that is going to be something that's going to highlight as treated water because of the chemicals that it's going to be treated with. The bread and butter would be being able to differentiate between treated water and groundwater, treated water and rainwater. All right, things like that. How we do that is based off the conductivity range. Okay, so that's our patented algorithm. We are the only ones who can do this, and we have sole source documentation for it as well. What we do is we run this analysis, and when the water saturates the soil, it gives off a certain conductivity range. Okay. Treated water has a range, a very specific range. It's very small. I actually can
So
pull up.
basically, it's the chlorine and the other chemicals in the water? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yes. And I can kind of paint a little picture here for you. Let me pull up. Oh, where'd we go? Am I sharing here? There goes the technology smelling the fear again. Okay. There we go. So here's a good way to see it. So essentially all water is going to look the same. Can you guys see my screen here?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So all waters are going to look the same when we just take the image. Okay. What our analysis does is with a frequency increased, we're able to separate the conductivity range, and then we'll essentially highlight here's treated. We'll probably cut off here and here. And again, I'm giving you a very basic, like the our CTO and co-founder who developed this, he worked for NASA. This is like rocket science stuff. I can't tell you exactly how they do it, but what they do is they highlight a range of conductivity, and that's what they're highlighting. Okay, so when we're looking at it, we're looking for a specific type of water. And the two solutions we have available at this point in time are for wastewater and treated water. So we take one image, we do the analysis for water, and then we could, with the same image, do the analysis for the wastewater.
Okay. Got it.
And another thing I do want to highlight, judging by the size of your system, our minimum package is for 250 total miles. For water, what I have from the information I got from Cody is about 66 linear miles of pipe. If you have wastewater as well, if you guys deal with that, and you add the wastewater and it's still below 250 miles, you're getting both solutions for the same exact price. Okay, so we wouldn't charge you this price for treated water and then charge you that same thing for wastewater. If you guys are under that 250, it's going to be the same exact price. Even if you went to 255, it might go up a couple $100. So that's a good thing to know if you guys are interested in doing it for both water and wastewater. It wouldn't cost you anymore.
Good. Okay. Anybody else? I have a hand up from a member of the public. Mr. Wilson, do you want to go ahead and?
Hi. Thanks, Chair Dean. Hey, great presentation, Matthias. Thank you. Quick question on the SAR technology. Can it be deployed for lower elevation vehicles like drones or helicopters or airplanes that would enable obviously perhaps more frequent scans in a given period? Is that out there? Is that something that you guys do? Or anyway, you get my question. Thanks very much.
Yeah, great question, Jeff. Yeah, so it is something we have tried. Here in the US, it's not cost effective. It's so much more expensive to do it with planes and or I don't know, a helicopter, like a vehicle that's a little bit lower too. We have conducted it in Italy where it's a little more cost effective and it makes more sense. But to give you an idea, our revisit period, we can revisit an area anywhere between 7 to 14 days. So we do have fairly frequent coverage. But if we were to deploy that technology here in the US, it's just going to be so much more expensive that it kind of loses the efficiency of it. So we're charging for something and it ends up being almost as expensive as just contracting a team to inspect the entire system all year round. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have a hand up for,
Oh, no, just Jeff.
oh, that was still Jeff? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time, Matthias. Great presentation and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate it. Any other questions you guys have? Because it tends to happen almost, I'd say 1 out of every 2 presentations. We hang up and 20 minutes later, there's like, I should have asked this. Shoot me an email, shoot me a call. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Obviously, we're getting into the end of the year, so trying to catch everyone before they go on vacation. But I'll do my best to get out to you guys. But I really
Let
appreciate
me ask
everyone
the group
here.
one more time.
I'm sorry?
Anybody else? I'm asking the group one more time to make sure they don't have another question.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Last call for questions.
No? Okay. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
All right. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for allowing me the platform and taking the time out. I really appreciate it and hope we're able to chat soon.
Good. Thank
All
you.
right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So How often, well, I know how often we have our water main breaks.
Yeah, those surface real quick. 100 gallons a minute. You don't need a satellite to find.
And the sewer lines as well.
So I think we're more worried about what's going in the sewer as far as infiltration than actual leakage there. But when you've got this package, and since we have such a small community, I think it would be beneficial. I like the 2-year plan. No, you get it twice in 1 year and you get it twice in another year. Obviously, we have enough to roll in the wastewater as well. I like the prevent. It is about, I mean, when it comes out to about 50 grand a year, that's about 5 times more than we were paying for our existing traditional way. But I think this is worth a shot. I don't know, I'll
Okay, and
take some suggestions from everybody here, but if we want to do a 1 or 2 year, but I really like this. I think it's a new approach and I think it'd behoove us to,
Should use it.
How do you guys?
should try it at least.
Now?
What's that?
How do you find leaks now?
The traditional correlation sounding way.
So you would do the sounding stuff that they're proposing yourself?
I think well,
Leak detection, I guess they call it.
we
Said
could,
they don't take the projects on, that they're not gonna contract it within the.
with them, okay, yeah.
Okay,
I'd free up staff time to have them. These guys are trained, this is what they
Right,
do. I'd prefer to have them come in and finish that up.
I just wondered if you already had the technology.
We have, we
We
do.
have microphones to help us pinpoint, but we don't have correlators, nor do we know how to use correlators.
Okay,
Yeah,
and these guys do it all the time, so they would be more efficient.
right, yeah, and like, so we have utility, services,
Yes.
utility services associates, utility service associates, sorry, let me get their name right here. Who's come in for us for the last 5 years.
Okay,
They've done our system. They do about a half of the system every 6 months and on rotate, and we usually find maybe 1 or 2 leaks. But I think it would definitely be beneficial for us for at least to take a look at this and see what we truly have. We're gonna be tightening up our water loss, or as far as the data, with our AMI. So we'll know what's going to the customer. What we need to know is what's internal for us, you know.
I was gonna ask, how much overlap is there with the AMI systems here? I mean, my worry is we're taking a belt and suspenders approach. We're gonna use AMI for leak detection. We're gonna use this for leak detection. Is there a lot of overlap between what we're gonna get between the two?
Not really. The AMI is more customer based,
Okay.
so meter and thereafter, and this would be more, municipality agency based for us.
everything before the meter.
Everything before the
Before the
meter.
meter, okay.
I mean, it's from what it sounds like, this one might detect large leak on the customer side, but that's not its primary function.
Right, and typically the leaks that we may have before the meter are the big ones.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, well, they get bigger and leaks don't heal themselves, but yeah, so the overlap would be on that customer side.
Okay.
so how many miles of sewer line and how many miles of water line do we have?
What is it, 61 for sewer?
It's 60 miles of sewer main and 66 miles of water main.
So we're
67.
well under that 250, so we're getting both at the same time, both services. And the prevent, that's how many times a year?
Twice.
Is that enough?
Well, again, see, I mean, again, it's gonna know the difference between the salinity or the chlorine in the water that stands out. But for us, I think I'd really do it, starting season, so like in April or May, and then I do it on the shoulder of the season going out, like right now.
Okay.
Because even if you do find that leak underground, you know how much rain we get, very shallow, awkward, but it's right, it's hard to do repairs in the wet.
So what are they using to detect the wastewater leaks? It's not chlorine.
No, I'm
They're
not.
using conductivity
Yeah,
because there's more total dissolved solids
Okay.
or conductivity particles in the wastewater,
Okay.
drinking water.
So you're recommending we do option B and the prevent,
yes,
and there's not a real significant difference in the cost. I mean,
not
up
annual
that-
cost, yeah, I don't think so. I think that's.
Yeah, if it's,
That prevent, the 2-year package at prevent, it is about 5 times more than our current traditional method that we've used, but I think that'd be beneficial for us.
well, at least to try it for 2 years.
Yeah, and then to find out whether it's worth the money to do
Yeah.
it
Right.
even longer.
I think what I'm trying to glean from this is what we need to do to make our distribution system, water, wastewater, more robust and sustainable for the future years. Do we have a problem in certain areas?
Right.
We don't get a lot of main breaks, obviously. It's very obvious when we do, but our service lines are the issue. So we've kind of methodically gone through like, the Happy Hill area where we had frequent, and we've really reduced a lot of those service line leaks now to where the service lines that are leaking are first time. And so I would like to evaluate the system and see if there is a concern. Do we need to start budgeting for a $10 million main project? Again, you're about, you know, $1.5 to $2 million for main to get.
Are they including the lines all the way to the wells?
Yes,
And so the area that,
anything that's treated.
where the leak was, that we put that temporary line in, they would check that area and
Absolutely.
tell us how that wastewater line is.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah. Which is a concern for us, because that, you know, that still active line for wastewater is in state parks and in the wetlands
Right.
there. Yeah,
Jim, you point out we have $120,000 budgeted annually, I guess, for emergency repair, maintenance and. detection
well,
services.
so that's
Is that
six
right?
oh three one D, that's distribution. We have 120 a year for distribution repairs.
Okay,
So that is repair the leaks, and that also covers some surface repair to asphalt, to concrete.
I'm just pointing out 50,000 seems like a pretty good chunk
I-
there.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And,
Because then you find out about the leaks, then the real cost comes to fixing it.
exactly.
Yeah.
What's not covered in that 50,000 is getting our own staff out there to.
Right, so
Deal with
this,
that, yeah.
this would be a budget, either adjustment for this year,
Yeah.
or I would take it into the next 25-26 fiscal year
Okay,
and just start on July 1st.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at as a budget
is a
adjustment.
budget
So
adjustment on that.
not taking it out of the 120, but asking for 50 more, right?
Oh,
Right,
okay,
exactly.
got it. That was unclear. I thought this was coming out of the one.
Well, there's, you know, everything's alternative, so the alternative, there's absolutely no budget, this budget adjustment for this fiscal year, we'll go ahead and.
Got it.
Put that
Okay.
into the budget for next year.
Okay, anybody else?
I would say that given the examples they've used and just kind of common sense, at some point, we need a baseline. We need a comprehensive analysis that says, here's where we're at.
Mhm.
And to me, this looks like a way to get there. And I agree with you, I wouldn't pick the 3-year one, and the 1 year is just, that's like twice the price per year. Let's, you know, and things can happen in 2 years, so you're not, you know, to see something changing, you know, is it degrading, as you pointed out.
Is it developing a pattern of
Right, is
failure?
there a pattern, forming? So I think it's worth doing.
Okay, Jim?
I think it's a good technology. They're using it for many things, and I don't see why they couldn't effectively use it here. Cover a big topic, complex topic, cover it once or twice and address it. You know, I know it'll make Elizabeth Bettenhausen very happy. Yeah, she's out of business. She won't have a report to do. But I think that, I think they should do it. I definitely think they should do it.
And the last thing, and forgive me if it was already mentioned, but for instance, that big break on Main Street, had we caught that earlier, say with this type of a system, could we have saved a $230,000 repair?
We would have got it when it was beginning to fail, not completely failed. Yeah,
So I mean.
you would add a warning.
we would have had a little warning.
Just like you could have had a warning if we'd have had that for the water line that broke going across that
Right, exactly.
wetland, so.
Yeah,
But there, you could say there were some opportunities to save costs there identified early enough
absolutely.
to where it would
Yeah.
offset the cost for this type of a system.
Right.
Okay, I'm
But
gonna,
then, let me
No,
ask
go
one
ahead.
more question, Chair Dean, thank you. This does bring up a good question of how you view this kind of rolling out over the years. Because there is a point of, initially, we might get a whole series of places that have leaks.
We
and
might have
we would have
156 leaks.
We would have a giant Excel sheet of places you have to visit in the next 5 years.
Right.
But I'm wondering, are you viewing that as good enough, or do you want to be doing this every year, or is that still to be determined, basically?
Right, I think it's to be determined.
Okay.
Let's see what kind of benefit, or see what kind of, results this yields.
Mhm.
And, if we get down there and start replacing these leaks and we're like, darn, they're right on every time.
Mhm.
And then I think maybe it is something that you revisit every year. I mean, for a leak like what we had right here, that's a minimum 30 grand. So if you spent 30 grand a year finding something like this at a smaller rate, could that repair have been like a $5,000 repair instead of a $35,000 repair? Those are the ways that we were trying to look at, kind of make ourselves, make this more effective and then obviously reduce that repairs line in the budget.
And they're gonna provide us with that information too, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, I do have a hand up from the public. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, thank you, Chair. Quick question on alternative providers. I see Siemens has a SAR satellite leak detection system as well. Has there any due diligence been done on other competitive offerings in the market?
Great question, Jeff. Thank you. This is kind of us dipping our toe in. We want to see if it even got any traction at, our committee level here. And it looks like we're all in accord here. We think it's a great technology. So from here, this is where Cody and I, and Tristan, we kind of venture out and look who else is offering this and then put those proposals up together. Sorry.
Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Do we lose?
Okay, did that answer your
Yeah.
question? Oh.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't sure whether this was at the point where a proposal was being made to the board to go with Astera or to go with the technology and then look for alternative, sort of do a RFP type thing. So anyway, thanks.
Okay, so it is on the agenda that we're going to vote to discuss and consider forwarding this to the board of directors. Are we ready to do this now, or do you want to look at other options first and bring it back?
So I'd like to have a meeting internally and get some more specifics of what we'd like to take to the board, where it'd be a 1 year or 2 year plan, or this vendor or that vendor. And if there is more than two, then I think we should actually probably fly an RFP.
Okay, so do you want to bring this, do you want to do that, checking out and bring this
Right.
back next month?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, Jeff's hand's raised again. No, sorry.
Nope, sorry. That's it. I apologize. My hand is lowered now. Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, this was just an initial step to kind of bring this to you, provide you a presentation and see if there's someone would be interested. Obviously, staff's very interested in it, so.
Well, it sounds like some, no, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I believe we're at 4, and I thought you might want to bump up one of the agenda items.
Which one? The last one?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead
Yep.
and you guys are gonna do some checking and then come back to us.
Absolutely.
Okay. Our staff needs to leave at 4 o'clock, so we need to move the last agenda item up, and if you can do it as briefly as possible, so they still have time.
I will be brief.
Okay, so this is a presentation from committee member to Dick on a proposed Cambria flood risk mitigation and management plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. As you all know, flooding in Cambria has caused, and if not controlled, will increasingly cause injury, property damage, evacuations, people stranded by floodwaters, cut off access to utilities and emergency services, and severe economic impacts to residents and businesses. The proposed Cambria Flood Risk Mitigation and Management Plan is designed to address those issues. The floods in January and March of last year were not the first to hit Cambria, or the first time our community needed to respond with real measures to manage flows on Santa Rosa Creek. In response to the voices of the impacted coastal community members in 95 and 2001, the San Luis Obispo County Board of Supervisors approved funding for drainage and flood control studies for the 6 affected communities, including Cambria. These studies quantified the extent of drainage and flood problems of each of these communities, generated recommendations for solutions for the drainage and flooding problems, identified all the environmental permitting issues, went through all of the regulatory hoops, did everything needed to move forward with, ultimately, in 2009, the completion of a flood bypass system, levee modifications, pressure storm drain, new pump station, and the new Highway 1 bridge, which you're all familiar with being there. So The San Luis Obispo County Flood Control and Water Conservation District prepared a guide to implementing flood control measures back in 2009. And it contains the background of the county's response to these flooding impacts, actions taken at the time, and it provides our roadmap for dealing with preventing future flood issues. We're the target audience for this guide. It provides Cambria with the guidance in the process of implementing such measures and strategies to address flooding problems. As stated in the guide, quote, and I quote in part, under-maintained facilities reduce their design capacity and inhibit their ability to convey runoff. In the absence of maintenance responsibility being assumed by a separate entity, the owner whose parcel line extends into the drainage channel or upon whose property the drainage basin exists is responsible for maintaining the channel or basin's capacity. The long-term viability of the project may also depend on maintenance efforts outside of the project's limits by other entities such as erosion or sediment control in tributary areas upstream in the watershed, or vegetation or debris management or channel breaches up or downstream located on the property. The good news is that we in Cambria are not expected to manage flooding issues by ourselves. The County Flood Control and Water Conservation District is the designated county agency responsible for managing, planning, and maintaining drainage and flood control facilities in unincorporated public areas where no other agency has assumed an active role in such activities. The County Flood Control and Water Conservation District can work with individual cities or communities when requested. The recommended process of working with the County Flood Control and Water Conservation District and our many local stakeholders, along with the next steps in the process, are included in my report. And I'd be happy to go through it and answer any questions. If anybody, and there's, as you know, there's plenty of pictures and things to look at.
Okay, and can you send me a copy of what you just read?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, questions, comments?
Well, I have a comment.
Okay,
I've always been puzzled, frankly, having lived here and lived through each of those flood events you talked about the role of the diversion channel and pump at the end of town. These were installed to mitigate some of the flooding that occurred in West Village in particular. And for the life of me, I just don't see that it does any good. I see the owner of the gas station standing out there in 1 foot of water, you know, like, when are you turning on the pumps? And I just don't know how you can take water from downstream and pump it upstream and not impact yourself further downstream in a flood event. And from what I can see, we've got a great big pump at the end of town that pumps the water up to the middle of town. And then it just comes right back down to the end of town again. I mean, do I misunderstand how that works?
Tristan, I think I asked you where the water went from the pump. And it goes right out here, right?
5,500.
That would,
It
the
doesn't-
place that would make sense would be to run the pipe directly under the highway and straight out into the creek near the Windsor Bridge, but you would have to check with the owners of the pump to figure out exactly where that discharge lies. But my guess is it's over by the Windsor Bridge somewhere.
Okay, so it's not pumped back up in this
It
area.
is not. It's pretty much directly across Highway 1. Right there, kind of where that confluence is, where it meets where Santa Rosa Creek kind of meets that estuary right there. Which is why the wastewater treatment plant floods out, because they basically just take water from one side of Highway 1 and pump it to the other side, so.
That's right, and if there's a high tide event,
And there was.
Your
King tide, it
pumps
was the
aren't
king
gonna
tide
help.
event.
There was a high tide event at that time.
So, yeah.
And if you don't mind, I think I asked, Mr. Reaper as well, if there was a gate or something that kept the water from flowing back this direction. Did
So
you-
as I understand it, that all the storm drains that lead across the highway have gates that prevent backflow. So the creek it's one of the reasons the water pools here is the creek gets higher than the gravity storm drain, so they have to pump it out using mechanical means.
Okay, but the water that's in the West Village is not coming from Santa Rosa Creek. It's
Correct.
coming
It's
from
coming
the
from the
water
hillside.
that's coming down from the hills, just like the water in Santa Rosa Creek coming this way is from the 45 square miles of hills where the water is coming down and hitting the
And-
creek.
Up on Sheffield, bottom of Sheffield Canyon, that little canyon there's a 36-inch storm drain that drains under the West Village. And so I think that might have plugged up or partially plugged up during the January 9th storm. And there's no way that pump can keep up with that. That's why things flooded the way
Well,
they did.
just with all the debris that's in these creeks, when we have a major atmospheric river, every bridge becomes a weir that captures all the debris and makes it back up, and it's a difficult problem to analyze.
Mhm.
Aside from the fact that it's with the advent of atmospheric rivers causing most of your rainfall during the year. We have no real control or anticipation of where those rivers are gonna hit. I can remember standing with Bob Gresham's way back on the shores of San Simeon Creek, and it was just about ready to hit going over Highway 1. I mean, it was really high. And that atmospheric river really hit San Simeon Creek watershed and didn't flood as bad at all for Santa Rosa Creek. Whereas other years, it was Santa Rosa Creek got hammered and San Simeon Creek remained virtually untouched. So,
I went to JJ's Pizza that day, the January 9th storm. And the water coming from Santa Rosa Creek was almost level with the deck right outside their door. It had covered up the wrought iron chair and table, and you could not tell where the creek was. It just looked like a lake, and it was flowing down in waves with logs and branches and all kinds of stuff on it. And then getting down to the Windsor Street Bridge, there were ice chests and backpacks and clothing and all kinds of things flowing down. So, yeah, that was a mess.
And right across from JJ's, if you look across the creek, is our Santa Rosa Will 3 headworks right there.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, anybody else?
I mean, I'll chime in at the end if there's no committee members that.
Well, I'd like to ask a little of what Mr. Duchek sees as our relationship with the flood control district. I mean, a lot of these are good ideas. I think the district is more than a stakeholder, but less than kind of a primary mover on this. And I'm not sure where we sit. Pardon me. And so I'm wondering, if you've thought about this, I'm looking at your chart here as to where everybody sits. I guess all I'm saying is I'm kind of in support of the idea, but I'm nervous about committing the district to being the lead on everything here. Is
That's a perfect segue for us.
Yep.
There you go.
So Jim and I have had a lot of conversations about this. We do recognize that this is a real issue and at some point in the future needs to be addressed. The downside of it is that it's nowhere really within our jurisdiction, right? It is the San Luis Obispo Flood and Control Water District's realm of responsibility. Now, like mentioned, they can work with agencies like ourselves. The downside is that we just do not have the capacity right now to head something, at least anything soon within the next couple of years. We don't have the staff time and the capacity or the funds really to take this on, nor do we have the jurisdiction. So it's really what we're looking for is SLO County to take the lead. And we're gonna work, Jim, myself, we're gonna put it on the radar. We have some meetings coming up, the RAC meeting.
This Wednesday.
Yeah, so Jim's gonna talk with them and put it on their radar. But when we take a look at where we are as a district with some of our major projects that are going on. And I've said this before, I've transformed Tristan and Jim from utilities management staff to Parks Rec management staff, to biologists, to, state parks represent. How, as much as I've saddled them with, because they're really the content experts in the district when it comes to permitting. So anything permitting gets thrown on their lap. This would be a permitting nightmare for us. And we don't have the jurisdiction. So, we recognize it. It's on our radar. We're gonna put it on the flood control district's radar. There is, I'm sure, funding out there. But we just don't have the capacity at the moment to take something of this magnitude on. So we'll work with the flood control district, we'll put it on their radar. We'll get to see, you know, if there's any movement out of their end, you know, the county's in a deficit as well, so. Where their money is and where they're putting it or what they budgeted and things like that, we'll have those conversations. I wanna temper expectations on when this ball would ever get rolling, in the next year, couple of years, just of where we are management staff wise.
And that's something that I can have some dialogue with, the flood control district, at the Water Resources Advisory Committee meeting on Wednesday. And then again, you know, squeaky wheel kind of gets the grease. So this is something that we can revisit at our monthly or quarterly meetings with these guys and just see where they're at and how we can collaborate and help with whatever we can help with.
Yeah, we'll share your document.
Yeah.
Well, now I wish I had paid attention when we talked about the standing rules for these committees. One of my questions is, if we get some interest from the county, could the R&I committee have an ad hoc committee that
No.
works with the county? Cannot do that.
I talked to legal counsel,
Okay,
and this is not in our jurisdiction.
okay.
We are not allowed to directly contact these agencies. It's up to the staff to do that. Mr. Carmel said that, this would require, since it requires the staff time and all of that, and it's not the jurisdiction of R&I, that would be a totally separate standing committee.
Mhm.
And for this purpose, and we do not have the staff right now for that. So, I think we need to let the general manager and Mr. Reaper and Mr. Green at the moment see what they can do with the flood control district and, come back to us and give us little reports now and then to see if we have any inkling of hope. And if there's any money.
Well, exactly. I mean, they know the county knows this is a point of contention. That flood pump was originally slated for Los Osos. But we kind of ranked up in priority. And this is, of course, this is before 2016, yeah. When that bumped into over here. So, it's on their radar. They're well of the vulnerability of the Santa Rosa Creek and, you know, those living along it. So that's something we'll definitely drive home when we speak to these guys and have some dialogue with them directly.
Okay. And you'll keep us updated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and you'll send me that last thing that you,
Sure.
okay,
Little intro.
yeah, your intro.
If you like, I can even pass on your report.
Please
to them as
do.
well.
I
Yeah.
would very much.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I think we have one item left on the agenda,
Got one.
4B.
Yeah, so, again, this is stuff we're trying to think outside the box where we can, save money, save water, save our carbon footprint. So our next topic we bring up is, we have a 30+ old, Case 580 tractor, which has just been fantastic for us. In the recent years, not even this recent break or failure, included, we've spent more on the tractor than the tractor is worth. That's kind of what we do. We kind of band-aid things along or try and make permanent replacements to keep it longer. We're at that age with this tractor where we're gonna spend probably twice its value on repairs just this year to keep it operating. With that, Superintendent Cody was in the market looking at some new tractors, and we stumbled across this Case 580, which is the exact case we have now, but electric. The retail cost for this case is, let's see, $398,970. So at almost $500,000 is really outside of our budget. But CORE, don't ask me right now what that acronym stands for, is giving a rebate for off-road or vehicles of this nature, a clean off-road equipment voucher. Thank you. It's a clean off-road equipment. That's what CORE is. So they're offering a voucher of $290,000. So when we take kind of apples to apples, so if we take a diesel 580 case and we take a electric 580 case, the electric 580 case with the voucher, that $290,000, is actually about $60,000 cheaper than a diesel.
Wow.
In talking to some of the vendor representatives and other people have used this, the prototype that came out in 2019 wasn't the best. You could use it for about 2 hours. Then you had to limp it back and go charge it for 8 to use it. I think nickel or the battery in here is lithium. I think those advances have come a long way in those battery operational lifetime and operational cycle of that during its charge. So I think this is more steered towards us right now. This isn't a backhoe that we're on 8-10 hours a day, every day of the week.
Right, you're not farming.
Yeah, we're not farming with it. So when we use it, ideally it's for about 2 or 3 hours. So even if we got a little increase in battery duration and, torque strength and all that, with that in consideration, I think this would be something that would actually be suitable for us in our needs. Again, we're trying to throw some things out here where we can be, conservative. This would kind of save money and would save us a carbon footprint. Well, water department and wastewater uses it as well. When we talk about the old storms, we actually had it out on the Fiscalini Ranch back in 2021, January, where we had that major storm. We had to send, when the flood pump was operating and it was flooding out, Windsor there, and everyone had to exit through the Fiscalini Ranch. We actually used that at that time to scrape, drag, bring in base and alleviate that egress area there. So that way it was safe for the community members exiting there. So it has a lot of different uses that we use this tractor for, not just water or wastewater. But we just wanted to bring this forward and see if this had any traction with you guys, if you guys thought this was a good idea or something that we should consider.
What about charging it?
Charging it. So we will have chargers at the plants, which will already cover this type of charger. The EV truck, I'm just gonna bring this update to you next month. Not all the information is available, but Ford is going to give us basically a $3,000 charger for that 4 Lightning Pro. It can either be a 48 amp or an 80 amp. Obviously, we prefer the 80 amp. Charging rate is about 11 miles per charging hour to up to 22 miles per charging hour for the 80 amp one. So right now we're doing some electrical background and engineering to see what we can fit and where. Obviously, we like the large one. So that tractor would actually be able to charge on that platform that we would get that free charger for. Additionally, it does have a better charger. It's a $3,800 charger. That case is put out specifically for this. With this voucher, we'd get that $3,800 charger for $800. So now we could have one dedicated to charging the tractor or charging other vehicles, while we'd have that other one dedicated to on-call operator trucks as well. So there's a lot of money the state's giving away for this right now. As of today, the voucher program is full. We put our voucher in a couple weeks ago. This isn't an absolute commitment. This was just to get us in line because we knew these voucher spaces were running out. A lot of people don't qualify. A lot of agencies and municipalities don't qualify for this, or they pull out at the end. So we could potentially get in the end of line for this to take a receipt of this. The lead time is about 3 to 6 months out on this. So we have plenty of time to kind of kick the ball around and discuss this. If we do wind up on this voucher program or voucher cycle, the next voucher cycle would be released August of 2025. So that would be our next time we'd be available to jump into this, which means either renting a tractor or putting that, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 into repairing it.
What's the timing on the voucher? Do we wait for our voucher acceptance before we order this? Or are we ever in a financial bind where we've ordered a $300,000 tractor or $500,000 tractor and we realize, oh, we're not getting the voucher, we're on the hook for the big thing?
I'm sure that's never occurred.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it has.
But I'm sure it's occurred somewhere. I'm sure those are probably some of those withdrawals where they go, oh, crap,
Okay.
or we don't even have the $100,000 to do that with.
Yeah.
But this would be something we'd do a budget adjustment for. We do have a little monies in, for replacing this, not quite that, I think it would come out to about, with charger and everything would be, without charger would be about $109,000.
Okay.
So.
Did you get any money for the old tractor? or
We
is it-
could, indeed, yeah, we'd government surplus that, and I think we'd probably get, I mean, it's metal anyway, so metal's money. So even if you don't use it for the tractor, you probably got 4 or 5 grand in metal there right now. But I mean, we have anticipated probably receiving about 4 or 5 grand through government surplus. So yeah, that's all additional help that you can put towards, purchasing of this or procurement of this. But again, I just kind of want to see if this got any traction here. If
How
you guys thought it was a
reliable
good
are
idea.
these electric vehicles?
So the prototype came out in 2019. So as far as like the functionality and the operation of them, they're just, in fact, they have even a little bit more torque than the diesels
Right.
do. My only concern is just long-term operation,
That's
like in
fine,
the day, like
yeah.
can we get this and run it for 8 hours a day? That I don't know, that I'm still doing some research on before we ever, I get some finality to those answers and those questions before ever purchasing.
Do they have any that are in our kind of environment, where you're gonna have a lot more corrosion than you would expect? Like in Bakersfield or the valley somewhere?
Right, I mean, it would be outside, so it would be susceptible to, our environment here, but, from what we've seen, what we've viewed, it's not any different than ours, and again, our 30-year-old
Okay.
has got rust spots and stuff on it, but it's still functioning, and very functioning. What we'd like to do, and we've reached out to the vendor, is we'd like a trial run on this. We'd like to, rent it for a day if we had to, and actually put it in the field, like drive it from our yard, drive it out to a leak, do some digging, some filling, some loading with it, and see what kind of battery range and see if it's doable for us. Again, with this charger you get, let's say they double there, you only got 2 useful hours out of it from the 2019 model, maybe now they've doubled it where you've gotten 4. Well, we've got that fast charger now that we could purchase with this, where you could come back essentially on lunch and in half an hour come back and have that near full or 80% charge to go back out and complete.
So
the
they
day.
don't have one of these that's being used somewhere 8 hours a day and then gets charged at night, 8 hours a day?
Not from our understanding. We
Okay.
don't have any case studies to validate that, but that's what we're researching.
And there's no idling time. When you're not moving,
Right.
it's not subtracting from the battery.
Right. Yeah. So there's some fine points. We just want to know, is this even something that you guys are interested in, that we should do some more digging into and get some information?
Well, how much a year, how many hours do you use?
Our current,
Yeah,
probably
On
about
average.
60 to 80,
60 to 80
Yeah.
a year?
yeah. Besides emergency.
Have you looked at buying something used that's in good condition?
The problem with used, they're right up around 70, 80 grand for used. So they're not even half of what like a new tractor would cost.
Okay.
So. Unfortunately, I think we'd probably just rent instead of repairing. That sort of thing. It's kind of difficult though, if you don't have that unit, to go try and rent one in an emergency and then nobody has one. So,
Oh, you need one?
yeah, it's like generators, during the
Right.
winter season, when everyone needs it, yeah, you can't find one for rent. But yeah, so I just wanted to, again, see if this is something, an avenue we should go down and do some more research on for you guys, or.
Anybody else?
Question?
Questions?
Yeah, well, you've answered most of them. And it sounds like you're gonna go back and do the research, but my first question is there anything that diesel can do that this EV can't? And it sounds like from what you've seen from the prototype and other things, that it looks like you can do everything. that
Just
diesel-
operational longevity,
So
so.
at operational option, that would be my big concern. And, but it sounds like it's almost too good to pass up at some point if you can get that kind of.
Right.
Deal.
And I might be low on our annual hours average on our truck, it's probably,
That and currently we're running back and forth with our field tractor. We're taking it from the site to load up base sand and asphalt, and it's really just doubling staff time on leaves, so it varies.
Okay.
we're having to bring that back to the plant, load from our bunkers to the dump truck then. Yeah, so it's. Yeah, this tractor could potentially take, so we have a smaller John Deere, that's our field tractor, which is really fantastic on our smaller streets here, which the majority of them are. But this could also do that work. That the little John Deere could. Some of the tighter streets would be a little bit more difficult, but you just figure it out, it worked.
Questions?
Anybody online?
All that's left is Harry.
Oh,
Not allowed.
Okay,
very good.
so, so you're gonna do a little more research, or are we not ready yet then to discuss?
We'll do some diving in to see if we can get any decent deals or any decent findings on used tractors.
Okay,
We'll also, see if this is, one of these models is rentable. And we can actually put it out in the field and operate it and see what kind of usage we get out of it, what duty cycle we get on a battery. And,
That would kind of be my concern, because let's say that we're in a time of the year when it's raining. And we lose power, and you're running the sewer plant off the generator, and you got someplace that you gotta put that tractor and it's running out of battery. Do we have the capacity with the generator at the sewer plant to charge this thing?
from our initial steps in talking to our electrician, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But if it's one of those 2.5 million gallon influent days and we've got everything running at the plant, I'm not sure that I'd wanna press my luck. Again. But
maybe we should keep the old tractor just in case as backup.
Yeah, I
um,
probably wouldn't start.
Yeah,
it does, unfortunately, it does have an electrical pull on it that we've kind of been unable to diagnose. So we actually had to put a shut off on the battery because it'll continue to draw amps. And you'll get it out somewhere, and if you don't touch it for an hour or keep it running, it's dead. So,
Oh, boy.
yeah,
okay, so you're gonna do a little more.
we'll do some,
checking.
yeah, we'll do some research. We're gonna find the used models, see if there's any other additional units. The problem for this grant is it was only available, not, or this funding, this voucher, I should say, was only available for this case model. There weren't any other electric stuff
Okay.
that were available.
All right.
Okay,
Which was actually kind of beneficial for us, because we thought, well, that's where it's an apple to an apple, basically, we're replacing a 580 with a 580, we know what it does and what its workings are.
how long is this
So-
grant available?
Yeah, I was
for?
gonna say, what's the timing on the decision then?
So the vouchers are already all spoken for, so if right now, this year ends where we stand, we're not in line to get one of these
Okay.
until the following August. Fortunately, the people that are cut off on the vouchers go to the top of the waiting list for the following year,
Got
or if that grant repeats, or that voucher repeats. Right now, it's not set in stone that this voucher will repeat, so this might not even be an opportunity to us. Everyone might take advantage of their, what's that?
You might be getting excited over nothing.
We might be getting excited over nothing. Yeah, this voucher everyone might, that's already submitted their vouchers, might receive their tractors and they might not renew it for next year, so. Might be an exercise in futility, but it's, again, just want to see.
Exercise is good for you.
Right, it is,
Okay,
indeed.
so just have future agenda items and we have.
Couple of minutes to go over future agenda items.
So, are we gonna do the SSD program update next month?
Yes,
Okay,
that'll be Tony and myself and Tristan bringing updates.
and then, last month we talked about SR for tank repair costs and scope.
Right.
Is that good for next month?
I think we're under 25,000.
We're still gonna bring it to R and I to discuss, but yeah, that's a topic we have.
Okay, and the wastewater e-charging station?
Right, so again, I'm just waiting for some things to be final on that, and we can bring a small presentation about that.
Okay, your wife keeps texting me.
I don't know why. She's not texting me.
A couple other things, and Tristan's really got some, and this is more of a big picture, not next month and next couple of months, but some future agenda items going for next year. I'll let Tristan have the floor in a second here, but, our Ditch Witch vacuum chiller, we want to touch on that again with the trade-in. We want to bring some numbers to you, for that. Mow and Flow. So this is I'll steal a little bit of Tristan's conservation thunder here. Moen, the faucet company, as you guys are all aware of, they make a device called Flow, capital F, capital L, capital O, that goes on your main line influent to your house. That is an application kind of similar to the Flume, where it'll tell you your volume of consumption, your flow rate. But it also does a cool little thing where you can set thresholds to where it'll shut off. So if you have 5 gallons a minute, going for more than an hour or shut off, or, you know, even 1 gallon a minute for over 24 hours, it'll shut it off. We have some conservation or rebate dollars. I was thinking about maybe purchasing 100 of these and releasing them at a discounted rate. That's something of interest. I'd like maybe to have the regional representative from Flow give a presentation on it. They usually bring a regional insurance company representative with them as well, where they talk about leaks are the #1 insurance claim that are the highest dollar, and they bring some other statistics. But I don't want to seem like I'm trying to pitch a product or trying to sell the community anything. We're not a retail shop here. We sell water and wastewater. I don't sell devices and equipment. This is just something that we could put on, again, a potential presentation. I'd like to raise awareness about this. With today's presentation and talking about leaks on the customer side, I think that's fantastic. That for the customer side and then for conservation as a whole. A lot of times, we'll have a leak on the customer side. We'll do billing and rate adjustment and all that stuff. So we're really not getting dollars for that water loss at the end of the day. So I just thought this was a nice.
You do rate adjustments when there's water loss?
Yes, you get a first time adjustment.
I didn't know
Yes,
that.
Yes. Please don't try this at home.
On the sewer rate,
Yeah, on the sewer.
on the sewer
okay.
rate,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
yeah.
I was gonna say.
Cause I always thought you guys were pretty firm on paying for the water,
Yeah.
no matter where it goes.
Exactly.
Is that it?
No, Tristan, he's got a
Okay, Tristan, you got
laundry list. of
got 2
topics.
I
minutes.
got 2 minutes, all right, so the first thing is we're gonna need to update our urban water management plan, water storage contingency plan, and there was a third one. I'll have to bring that back later, so those 2 plans need to be updated, they're due for submission not till July 2026. But there's gonna be a lot of water agencies competing for a limited number of consultants, so we're gonna get on the ball early. The draft guidance is gonna get released in January, so after that, we'll let something go on. In terms of what the consultant will have to update the new plan to.
Mhm.
And then the other one we were looking at, we're gonna talk with Medal's Water on Wednesday about possibly doing an offset study similar to what Los Osos did. And possibly general revamping the water conservation program with the idea of trying to save more water.
And bringing it up today.
Okay.
And can we have Jim give an update on his meeting with the flood control district?
Yeah, I asked him to do that. So, and have you heard anything back from the biomass people?
I have not,
Okay,
not a word.
so is that it? Anybody else have any other requests for future agenda items? I know.
I've got one other thing I wanted to bring up. We've talked about this for years. I know, I'm sorry. We,
I'm gonna extend the meeting for 5 minutes to 4:05 if nobody has any objections and if it's okay with Ms. Dodson. Okay, so you got 6 minutes now.
We've talked for years about how we want to update our hydraulic model here. It was done probably 15 years ago when we consumed a lot more water. We want to update that hydraulic model, I'm sorry, and update our water master plan here. And like one of our consultants that we work with to do that. And so as we get into next year, this is kind of like a January, February date that we'll be bringing this to you, but we'll kind of bring the scope of that forward. I think it's time. It's something that I've been planning to do here since I came on board here almost 7 years ago. And I think it's time and it's definitely due. So that's something else that we'll have coming down the pipe here.
Good name.
You also mentioned something, or we did, I can't remember if we did it in a meeting or where, about the possibility of eventually doing a in-stream flow study for Santa Rosa.
Absolutely, yes.
In fact, I found a copy of an in-stream flow study from the very early 90s on Santa Rosa Creek, but during the year they were gonna do the study, it was too dry to actually perform the study itself. So they just walked the creek and kind of described some of the conditions and what they would have done if there had been enough water. So maybe it's time to pull that out and finish it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay,
I think we had, it would be with Stillwater, who did a fantastic job on our Simeon Creek and stream flow study, so we'd like to have them doing at the other end of town too, so.
okay. Anything else?
Okay,
Okay, it is.
see, we ended early.
It is 4 o'clock, and if no one has any objections, we're going to go ahead and adjourn.
All right,
Thank you so much.
thanks, everybody.